Hi, my name is Catherine Federline, and this is an overview and summative report for the SFA tutoring I engaged in during the fall semester of 2021. During this semester, there were two students I worked with, one of whom I reported on his progress throughout the semester, and that is the student I'll be sharing about today. For the sake of this project, we'll call that student Tim. My tutee, who we're calling Tim, is a first grade boy. I am unaware of the previous educational experiences he's had, whether or not he was in school for preschool or kindergarten, and if so, what that looked like due to COVID the past 2 years. From working with him, I discovered that Tim is a very respectful student. He also shows great interest and excitement to learn. Throughout pretty much every session, he was very engaged. Tim also shows a strong desire to help others. Whenever we'd use a whiteboard, he always wanted to help clean it off. And if someone dropped something, he would be there to pick it up. It was also very interesting finding out from the first day that Tim and I share some similarities. For example, we both have the same favorite color, which is blue. Tim also expressed that he had a great interest and like for football. He would often play after school and on weekends with his brother. He got really excited when he found out that I was from the same hometown as his favorite football team, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Throughout our time working together, I discovered that there were several things that caused Tim to often struggle. One of those things was understandably when he wasn't able to get something right for a while, he would often start to lose interest in what he was working on. In order to combat this, I worked on creating enough opportunities within a session for him to succeed. I also found it was helpful sometimes to do a brief stretch break so that he could take a step back from what he was learning and then be able to refocus on the material after he got up and moved around a little bit. These stretch breaks really seemed to help, and he really enjoyed them. The first thing I did was to administer the SFA assessment in order to determine where Tim's strengths lied and what areas we needed to focus on and develop. Throughout the semester, I would re-administer this assessment to help determine what progress Tim was making. After examining the results of the pre-assessment, it was clear that Tim would be on tutoring plan 1 and would benefit from strengthening foundational concepts such as identifying phonemes. During the first assessment, due to Tim's progress, I only administered part 1 of the SFA assessment. In this assessment, Tim's strongest objective was concepts of print, which he completed with 83% accuracy. Tim only struggled with identifying the title. However, with some guidance that I provided, he was able to accurately find the title. There were several other objectives which Tim showed some understanding in. Those are PA1, identifying initial sounds, which he was only 20% accurate with. Tim was able to identify the k sound in call and the s in sun. The two other objectives where Tim showed some understanding was letter skills 1, identifying letter sounds, which he was 67% accurate with, and letter skills 2, or writing the letters for a specific sound, which he was 52% accurate with. Within the three remaining objectives, PA2, 3, and letter skills 3, Tim was unable to answer any of the questions. Utilizing the data from the pre-assessment, I provided Tim with 4 sessions of direct instruction to address his areas of concern. Starting out for the first 2 sessions, I included PA2 and PA3 because it was clear from the pre-assessment that Tim needed significant work in these areas. However, after implementing these 2 activities, I noticed Tim was getting very frustrated and having trouble completing these activities. After reflection and consultation, I realized Tim did not have the necessary foundational skills to complete these activities. So I made the decision to focus on helping him build a firm foundation of phonemic recognition and replaced these two objectives with an additional PA1 and LS1 activity. After this transition, Tim showed significant improvement in his accuracy level of these objectives, PA1 and LS1, and became even more engaged in the sessions. From the first session of using Activity 1, What's My Sound, Tim excelled with this activity. Utilizing pictures to help Tim compare words with the same initial sound not only helped with his identifying letter sounds, but also made this activity the most enjoyable one for him and helped him to be even more engaged. Overall, Tim made great progress through these sessions. I noticed that he was most engaged and enjoyed it the most when we used activities that incorporated additional materials, such as pictures, especially when those materials included football themes. So I used that fact that I learned in future sessions and try to incorporate additional materials to help engage him. In addition to all this academic growth I witnessed, Tim grow in his confidence in his own ability as well. He became less hesitant when he was answering the questions. Administering the SFA assessment again, the data confirmed that Tim had acquired a strong grasp of PA1 and LS1. It also provided data to direct the next set of tutoring sessions. During this second assessment, Tim was able to completely master the concepts of print, so per SFA regulations, they were no longer included in future assessments. He was also very close to mastering several other objectives he had previously struggled with. Tim was one word away from mastery of PA1, struggling with the words grape, thumb, and chalk. This improvement was expected due to the progress I had seen in the tutoring sessions where we focused heavily on this objective. LS1 and LS2 also showed improvement, with Travis being able to accurately answer at least 3 or more letters in each objective. The remaining 3 objectives, PA2, PA3, and LS3, all remained areas of great need, with Travis still unable to accurately answer any of the questions presented in those objectives. This was not unexpected because we had focused primarily on the foundational objectives, PA1 and LS1. These last 3 objectives we were saving for our next set of lessons. Due to the results of the first reassessment, Tim was still on Tutoring Plan 1, which focuses on more fundamental objectives and skills. Examining the data from this assessment, I determined it would be most beneficial for Tim to move his focus to PA2 and PA3. However, I also recognized the importance of continuing to provide him opportunities to grow in his recognition of letter sounds, since this is a very fundamental and important skill for not only reading words, but also for breaking words down. That's why I incorporated his well-enjoyed activity from LS1. I also included LS2 to help him have additional opportunities to recognize phonemes as well as graphemes. When working with objectives PA2 and PA3, there was initially some struggle for Tim to achieve in these areas. I also noticed it took him a lot of cognitive energy to remember the sounds he had said, as well as put it together with the other sounds. However, after conversation with my professional learning community, I utilized their feedback and began to use the whiteboard to segment the letters into boxes, which helped Tim keep track of the letters he had said. This was also very helpful in developing his alphabetic principles. This simple adjustment of the strategy proved very beneficial, and Tim enjoyed the introduction of the whiteboard. Something else I introduced during these sessions and found helpful for Tim was having him graph his progress after each session. He enjoyed coloring in the graph, which was designed with football images around it, and began to be able to see his progress, which helped him to stay motivated and engaged throughout the sessions. The data from this second and last reassessment for the semester verified that Tim's hard work was paying off and that he had made significant progress, even just compared to the last reassessment. During this assessment, Tim mastered the necessary objectives in order to move on to part 2 of the SFA assessment. So this assessment took a little longer than the previous reassessment, but it was well worth it. The results of this assessment placed Tim in Tutoring Plan 2 for the last set of lessons for the semester. In addition to mastering the necessary objectives to move on to the second part of the assessment, Tim showed significant growth in the other objectives from Part 1. Within Part 1, LS2 was Tim's strongest objective from the 4 he did not master. He was only 3 away from mastering the first 2 sets of this objective. Within PA2, Tim went from being able to complete 0 words to being able to complete 1 word and was very close to getting several others. For PA3, Travis went from 0 words to 4 words. And in LS3, he was still only able to name the letter A, but we hadn't worked on that skill yet, so that was pretty much expected. Within Part 2, Tim was only able to answer 1 word from each set, but the data from this assessment shows that overall, Tim's progress doubled in nearly every objective from Part 1 since the initial assessment. This progress shifted our last set of tutoring sessions into a new tutoring plan. With Tutoring Plan 2, the objectives of word skills and sight words are added. These skills are similar to the previous objectives and build off those skills. Though Tim had a slow start with WS1, he was able to complete this activity with significantly more accuracy than the other objectives. This is partly due to the fact that it's very similar to PA2 activities that he had done of blending. Tim experienced a little bit of trouble with WS2, which focuses on spelling, because he was still working on identifying letter names. The sight words activity primarily focused on Tim learning the sight words, since he was only able to recognize 2 of the sight words without assistance during these sessions, and those sight words were A and I. However, with more practice, I'm sure that he will be able to succeed in all of these areas. I am very proud of the progress Tim made throughout this semester. Reflecting on the data and my experience working with him, there are several areas of growth Tim has shown this semester, as well as several areas that he would still benefit from working on. From the beginning, Tim was strong in the concepts of print. He also had very legible handwriting. As we worked together and intensely focused on phonemic awareness and letter skills, Tim was able to excel in his recognition of letter sounds as well as his recognition of the initial sounds in a word. Even though Tim showed great progress in the objectives LS3 and PA2 and 3, he would benefit from additional work in these areas to be able to strengthen his foundation in these skills and really become a stronger reader. Two additional areas where Tim still needs a lot of focus and work is in recognizing sight words and working on spelling. Many of the strategies proved to be effective and enjoyable for both me and my tutee. There were sometimes I tweaked the strategy to best engage and support my tutee, but for the most part, I conducted each strategy with as much fidelity as I could. One of my favorite strategies was the PA3 strategy of breaking it down. I enjoyed this strategy because my tutee experienced a lot of growth within this strategy. He was very happy when he was able to get the words right, and it was great to see his enjoyment and pride in that moment. Within this strategy, I would say a word and ask him to break it down into the phonemes he heard. To help him with this, I would keep track of the phonemes that he said on the whiteboard. That way, if he got stuck, we could review the correct phonemes he had already said, and this would help him to recognize what phonemes he was missing. The strategy that my 2D probably enjoyed the most was the LS1 strategy of letter sound matching. This was his favorite strategy because we played it like a matching game. I would say a sound, and he would have to pick up the sound from the letter cards that were lined up that he thought that sound matched. This helped to strengthen his recognition of the phonemes and strengthen his alphabetic principle as well, from being able to recognize the printed version of those letters. What I researched and learned this semester about the science of reading influenced the professional decisions I made on what activities to do and how to modify them. Understanding the natural progression of skills required for reading, I was able to evaluate where Tim was at and understand what I needed to do to help scaffold him to the next step. Within the science of reading, a major concept is Scarborough's rope. Examining this theory, it is clear that this semester the focus of tutoring was on the word recognition strand, which focuses on phonological awareness, decoding, including the alphabetic principle, and sight word recognition. Moving forward, Tim would benefit from additional direct instruction and practice within this half of Scarborough's rope, especially in decoding, focusing on spelling, and focusing on sight word recognition. Though Tim was not performing at grade level at the end of the semester, he is moving right along in the right direction. He needs to improve his sight word recognition to be able to get closer to grade level performance. However, it is known that Tim has missed many days of school this year, and being unaware of what his experience was in the previous years due to COVID, both these factors can affect his rate of development within reading and acquiring these skills. With that noted, and seeing the progress he did make with the help of these additional instruction, it seems that much of his struggle is developmental, so I would continue to provide this additional instruction and monitor his progress. If he does not show appropriate improvement in the next few months, I would probably suggest recommending him for testing just to make sure there was no other underlying reasons. Throughout this semester, there were several research articles I explored and engaged in conversations about. I would like to briefly share two I found most important and impactful. The first of these articles focused on the Salesian model for classroom management, which was created by St. John Bosco. This model focuses on the importance of taking a proactive approach to classroom management by building relationships with students. One of the things that this article noted as important was building mutual trust with your students. This can be done by keeping promises with your students, because even if it seems like a simple thing to you, it means a lot to the students. Within this article, there were three important pillars that were presented. Those were conducting your classroom and managing it with reason, religion, and loving kindness. This philosophy will affect how I see and interact with my students and colleagues, knowing that they all have human dignity and that the relationships I build with them are important. The second article that we talked about was poverty and homelessness. Poverty and homelessness can have an extreme impact on every aspect of students' education, from them being able to engage in extracurricular activities, to being able to complete homework assignments, to even being able to get to school. Homelessness and poverty affect a large portion of students in the United States, so it's important to reflect on what these students may need and how to best help them, such as providing free meals or school supplies or transportation to after-school activities. Understanding and reflecting on the experiences of students with poverty or homelessness can help me to address these needs in my future classroom and students. Throughout this semester and my tutoring experience, there were a lot of things that I learned and many areas I grew in, all of which will be very helpful for my future as an educator. Two things in particular which I could share during an interview are, first, preparation and flexibility. During the semester, I grew in recognizing the importance to always be prepared when coming to tutoring, but not just being prepared with one set of lessons that you're going to do, but being prepared to be flexible as well, and having a backup plan in case something doesn't go right. For example, if your student is really struggling and just wants to give up, having a backup plan for how you might be able to switch up the lesson a little bit and engage them. Or, for example, if your student is at another appointment and has to show up late to tutoring and you have less time, being able to be flexible and know your plans well enough to be able to adapt them to that situation. Now, preparation and flexibility are very important skills for any educator to have within the classroom. Another important thing to know in education is progress monitoring. Through this experience, I was able to monitor my students' progress by tracking the data, and I was also able to learn how to effectively use that data to then drive my instruction for later lessons. Thank you for watching this presentation.